everyone, Professor Elam here. I just wanted to do a little micro lecture before you turn in assignment 4. Okay, so a few things. You have done a great job. You've just been a wonderful class. I know this is a lot of work, and it's normally an 18-week class that we've condensed to 9 weeks. So you're doing, 2 weeks worth of work every week. And you guys are doing great. And as always, call me if you have any questions or concerns. Okay, so for this week's assignment, assignment 4, it's all about positioning. So I wanted to kind of give you a little bit of a background, or I wanted to further have the conversation with you about what positioning is, because you're going to tell us what your competitive advantage is. You're going to tell us about your market niche, your positioning statement, and then repositioning considerations. So again, you're just sticking with the same company. You're using one company all the way through on this market plan. Okay, so the first thing that it is going to talk to you about is the competitive advantage. So that's going to be the first section of this next assignment. And the competitive advantage is a characteristic or attribute that allows a company to outperform its rivals. So, and the competitive advantage is because it offers superior value to their customers. Maybe it's lower prices, maybe it's better quality, maybe it's unique features, but what it does is it makes its offerings more attractive and harder for competitors to replicate. So companies achieve competitive advantage through things like being the cost leader or having like product differentiation. Their product is different than everyone else's. So competitive advantage. So what does your product or service do that is better than the competition? And remember, there's competition for everything. I mean, the minute a product starts making money, competition jumps in. So that's the competitive advantage. In your mind, or based on, better yet, the research you've done, why does your product or service have a competitive advantage? And then the next thing I wanted to talk to you about was the market niche. And the market niche is a focused, distinct segment of a larger market that has a specific unmet or underserved need, interest, and preference that are not being adequately served by the mainstream products or services. So let me give you an example of that. So a lot of people have tummy issues. So a niche market might be a bakery that only bakes gluten-free products. So that would be a specific niche market. Or a dog trainer that only trains rescue dogs with aggression. It's a very specific market. So, there's all kinds of dog trainers out there, but I have a rescue that's aggressive. So that's a whole different dynamic. So this is not just a dog trainer. This is somebody that can help, that deals specifically with rescues that have aggressive behavior. So that would be a niche. So a few things about the niche market. It has specific needs. So your target audience has unique problems, desires, or characteristics that are currently not being addressed. So think of something like something new, new issues that people are having with, a new product or that's out on the market. Just something that is not being served, like people with tummy issues. Let me think, what else could we do? It's something that is not in the mainstream. How about pickleball shoes for the beginner pickleball player? So you've got pickleball shoes, which is a huge market, but then we specifically have pickleball shoes for the beginner player. So that would be an example of that niche market. Let's see. something that is underserved. So I have a gardener, and the gardener comes over and services my yard, but I have got a lot of weeds are starting to creep in. So I hired a gardener that all he tends to are the weeds in the grass. So that would be a niche market. So he's not doing everything else. He's just focusing on keeping the grass healthy, not just mowing it, not just trimming it, but his focus is keeping the grass healthy. So that would be another example of like a market niche. Health and wellness, that's a really broad area. So anything that has to do within that that's specific, pet products. They're even now making gluten-free pet products. How about left-handed products? Products that are made for people with left hands, that are left-handed. And, think about that. I mean, that's a really niche market because, 90% of the population is right-handed. Eco-friendly alternatives, that would be another example of a niche market. And then the other thing I wanted to go over with you was what it means to position. So positioning and marketing is the strategic act of defining your product's unique place in the market and in the minds of your target customers. So, like Walmart has positioned itself to be the low cost provider. Nordstrom's has positioned themselves to be high customer quality. They have very high quality customer service. So it involves differentiating your offering from competitors by clearly communicating a compelling, unique selling position. So why does positioning matter? So positioning is how you want to be seen within the market. Okay, it's different than competitive advantage. Competitive advantage is how do we, what makes us better than the competition. But this is positioning is where is your role within the entire market, within the industry. And so positioning matters because it creates customer loyalty. It gives you that competitive advantage. So how you position yourself, Nike has positioned themselves to be the athletic shoe provider for serious athletes. So if you're a serious athlete, you are probably buying Nike products. And we can see that because when they show professional athletes, a lot of times they're wearing the Nike logo. So that is how they are positioning themselves. Okay. And then at the last part of your assignment, you are going to make repositioning considerations. So, for your product or service, based on how it's positioned right now, which again, that's going to come from your research. So, like if you're, researching Disney, how does Disney position itself as far as, amusement parks? It's family friendly. It's all about the magical place on earth. It's bringing to life books and stories and movies. That's how they position themselves. They're not just like a Six Flags. They're an amusement park. But they position themselves differently. So if I was doing Disney, if Disney was my company, my repositioning consideration, I would say yes, based on what is happening right now in this economic climate, I would reposition them to do blah, blah, blah. Or you could say, I don't have any repositioning considerations at this time. Okay, so that is for your assignment, your fourth assignment. Make sure you turn it in on time. Again, remember the minimum word count is just the minimum word count. You need to, that's just the minimum in order to get the information that we're looking for. You're much better off to go overboard because the more specific, the more research you do, the more analysis you do, the better you understand your product or service, the more details that are involved in your product or service, the better your marketing strategy is going to be. Okay, that's it for me. Please feel free to reach out anytime you have a question or concern and keep up the great work.